So there you go. Not all statements in the try block will execute. So it's expected,
And that's by design, and that's the mechanism of exceptions.
so then the try block is followed by one or more catch blocks, right? So we could have multiple catch blocks. I could probably demonstrate it so that in case if there is some other type of error, maybe I can continue on with this and say catch, also catch a generic exception, which would be a different type of exception right there. And here I can use that exception. And it already implements the get message, right? So there is a get message already built into the exception class, my parent class. But here I've, just for the sake of demonstration, I've just overridden it. And by the way, perhaps it would be a good idea to say override, right? So that we're really kind of telling the compiler that our intention is to override get message and to provide our own custom version of that message. But we can see what happens if we don't override it as well. So so we ended up having more than one catch block in this code by saying catch twice. Now notice that this is a specific exception. This is an exception, generic exception type, and I could expand different type of exceptions on this list because I could handle like division by 0 separately or something like that and keep on going with more specific exceptions if I wanted to. I can probably organize my exceptions into a hierarchy of objects and do all kinds of fancy things with them, right? But generally speaking, the demonstration here goes to say that we can have multiple catch statements in this code. And here I should probably, if I wanted to print it, I will just basically do the same thing here. I'll just use system print and print the exception. But this is an overridden method, and this is the method that is already built into the exception class. Okay, so let's run this one more time and see that nothing has changed. Okay, so this time, if I did not provide an exception handler for a specific exception type, instead, if I used catch statement for the exception class, that is still possible. And if I run this, you can see that because of the dynamic polymorphism, because of the polymorphic behavior of method overrides in Java, I still get my message, and my method is still found by the exception class, which is kind of expected situation when you have a class which extends another class and overrides a specific method. But since getMessage is already provided, I can try this. I can try to comment this out, save this, and try it again with just generic exception class, and getMessage also being a generic message. So let me just see what that gives me back when I run it. And did I? Yeah, so basically its implementation is the same. Add method failed, so that was me when I constructed my exception, I passed this message to the superclass constructor, so it does exactly the same thing. It just says that the generic exception class that we have already includes the message, and it can store a message for you. It can return it back. So let's go back to the rules, some of these rules that we're trying to discuss here. We also, it's kind of interesting that the catch block here may be optional, and instead a finally block could be used. Let's see. Let's give this a try, right? So in our code demonstration, we could comment out our attempts to catch the error, and instead say finally. Finally, and we can say here that it's just going to be a generic message saying that the finally block runs, right? Just runs. So we run something like this. Let's give this a try just to see if the syntax is correct. Yeah. So apparently this really no longer works. I think that it may have worked in earlier versions of Java. Right now it says, I think if I try compiling this, if I try building this, it says unreported exception. In other words, even if I do use the finally block, which we have yet to discuss, I still have to use a specific catch block. So let me just delete some of these comments that I was using here so that we can go back to the discussion of all these syntax elements that we use with try, catch, and finally, right? Okay, so this seems to have changed. This particular rule seems to have changed because the catch blocks are mandatory. A catch block specifies the type of exception it can catch. It contains the code known as exception handler, right? So anytime we use catch blocks, those are our exception handlers. Now let me demonstrate something here. And then we can take a break.